Today we could be asking Kengen, how comes IPPs are selling power more cheaper than you? Coming out with the justification as to why they are charging such tariff, she instead got agitated and went ahead giving us PR. To be very honest, I don't want to rule Madame as a hostile witness on this matter, but that is what she is becoming. Should we not get that justification, which every member here is interested to get, I think we are going to make our own report.
You cannot put a condition that since KPLC owes us, we cannot sit down with them. Otherwise, as the chair has indicated, we have amended the law and all the approvals will have to be coming through this committee.
Madam she actually lost her composure somehow and made some references, even using the word monkey. I feel very uncomfortable considering the historical connotations associated with the word monkey between black people and white people. And I just want her to withdraw that particular word in that context so that my spirit will be at peace.
First of all, I withdraw the word and my profuse apologies, and truly no harm intended. I only wanted to say that this is a company that works exactly according to the rules and according to all regulations, law in all countries to which we're subject, and my true apology.
We have other companies also selling power to us at probably a quarter of the price that we are buying power from you. They are also in geothermal business. They have also invested. They have told us that they can do even better than Kengen if they had stayed in this business for long. Now these new entrants, and I can give you an example, Socian. Now this Socian, which is, I'll give you the figures, you can give me the figures so that you can see the differences. It is two different worlds. How much you are selling power and how much they are selling the same power to us. Yet you have been in this business for long, reusing equipment that we have already paid for, partly, and you found a way to navigate the system so that you sell power to us, maybe you give us 50 megawatts, we move up to a certain period of time, then you only now need to add a few megawatts to renegotiate a fresh contract, and then we forget that we have already been paying for your initial investment through capacity charge. So, I would be interested to understand what is this additional cost you have invested that other companies have not, like Socian, so that they can afford to sell power much, much cheaper to us when they have just come the other day. It is expected because they have not earned anything on capacity charge. They're supposed to be more expensive than yourselves. How is it possible that since 2000 you've retained the same tariff when this equipment has been paying for itself, this investment has been paying for itself? How is it possible that, for instance, the new 10 megawatts that you added, for instance, why does it not reflect a reduction? Because these other new companies that have come on board the other day, they have given us much, much better tariffs. So how is it possible that there is no reflection of a gradual payment of your investment in your tariffs? Is it really possible that these tariffs can remain the same?
Thank you. I don't know the numbers or the discussion with Socian, so it's difficult for me to relate. are you discussing the GDC plants that Socian is putting together? Is that the comparison that you're asking me to relate to, sir?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. The GDC, the Geothermal Development Corporation, is the entity that is obligated to produce the steam.
Correct.
In that transaction. So GDC is responsible to develop the resource, manage the wells,
Correct.
and to provide steam, because that transaction is actually an energy conversion transaction where the developer receives the steam and then converts the steam.
As that response is being given, I wish I hope you have taken cognizance of the hue and cry that is going around regarding the cost of power, and specifically, the IPPs have been the biggest contributors to the high cost of power in this Kenya. Look at what you're charging. Look at what Kenyan is charging. Is selling to Kenya Power. That is where the line is being drawn. And I think that is the reason why the chair would wish to hear from you. You have already recouped your initial investment for this plant. How come then your tariff is still higher, yet your investment is fully paid? I think that is the justification, because this is where the mwananchi is crying. The higher the cost of power you sell to Kenya Power, the higher the cost the mwananchi will buy. And that is where the concern is all coming about. Kindly give us that justification.
Yes, certainly.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, and I hope you understand where we are coming from, because the way you have operated is very interesting. That somehow no one will invest their money unless the PPA describes how you are going to recoup your money back. Meaning that in these PPAs that you've signed already had a plan for you to get back your money. Now, the way I hear you talk about an open-ended PPA is that even the 150 megawatts you have, even that 2034, when you have it has expired and everybody is happy that they have gotten their money back, then you go again and start selling afresh. The same tariff that never changes. You start selling the same thing to us, because over the years, since 2000, there's never been any change. It means that basically, several years down the line, you need just to drill one more well, maybe 2 megawatts, then make it 152, then now continue with your usual tariff with another 150 that has already been paid for. You know, even when we called you for this particular meeting, we had not seen these figures, and I am struggling to understand if this capacity is it US dollars or is it cents? Or what this 41 per kilowatt hour for capacity, for instance, it is US dollars, right? In Kenya shillings, that would be like 5,000, right?
Yes.
5,000 per kilowatt. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. and is it the same kilowatts that we are buying at 6 US cents from Kenyan, right? 6 US cents is how much?
And
Yeah, I'm coming there. 7 shillings. So it's and we have not even talked about the energy cost. Now we are at 5,400 for the same thing that we are buying at 7 shillings. And for your information, don't tell us Kengen has these concessional loans, because that has always been the story. Sidui has this. You can also get cheaper loans. So the fact that is that we have an organization called Kengen that happens to source its loans where we don't want to care to know, but sells power to Kenyans at 7 US cents. They are the ones who pay their loans, not us. They have their own ways. How they obtain that, it is their business. But now we have another one here that is expensive to implement, has a whole story around it, so we have to pay 5,000 shillings. That is how many percent higher? Is how many thousands? So you can, how do you even calculate itakubali? So how will the calculator be able to accept that computation? Because
Chair, when you are still in it,
yeah.
Chair, I'm a bit conversant to our power than most of you, because I live just next to our power. And Chair, if you go to our power, I'm not sure what they are saying. They have closed the first plant, because what they have done, if you go to this where they dig the holes, or what do you call it, the wells, they have actually got a new technology where a field, they spread it into 4 wells or 3. I don't know what they call diagonal or horizontal drilling. And therefore, there is nothing new in their development other than just the same songs they sing to us as the old players in the team. Because if you look at from 2013, from 2000 where they had 8 megawatts, 13 to 48, I believe the first plant is what in 2013 they have only upgraded the first plant to observe the 48 megawatts. If I'm not wrong, Nyaga and the friends can actually elaborate, because I believe also that if they tell us that the GDC de-risks, yet for them they borrow all the cost from drilling, then I believe it should have come down gradually. Because if you look at a concession, there is political risks. There are all those risks. But from 2000 and up to now, we have not have been having political risks. I think political risk in this country has not, apart from 2008, 2007, we can say there was political risk. But now there's nothing like political risk. What we just need to see is an equivalent or higher, just substantially, not that much higher than what Kengen or other companies actually charge to Kenya Power.
So in response, I think, first of all, the accounting staff will clarify the numbers, because I think there might be some confusion on the numbers, if I'm not mistaken.
These numbers can't make sense.
He will clarify, and then after his clarifications, I will go to the further points that were raised for explanation, with your permission.
Okay.
Tell us when you're available.
All right. Maybe I need to know something. I'm advised by my legal counsel that you had clauses in your contracts that said when you have now, it's like now you have new additions or megawatts, and you have a new contract. So that contract supersedes the original contract, right?
I'll relate to that
correct.
later. Let's try to, there's so many questions that you've thrown at us, let us try to- Otherwise,
it's
we will
okay.
not be able to respond.
It's okay, you will respond.
Yes.
You'll respond to the ones we ask you directly.
Yes.
So, unless there are no answers to those questions. So before we go back to that, kindly, they all relate to the same thing. Is that the position?
I'm sorry, which question, please?
I'm saying that there is a clause that I'm advised in your contracts seemed to indicate that whenever you have a new contract, then that contract supersedes the original contract.
I see. I think Madam is referring to, Madam
Yes.
Legal Counsel is
Yes.
referring to the title amended and restated. Is that your question? Yes. So from time to time, as the increments occurred, or KPLC, for example, asked us to give up a security that there was in fact. So it was done in the form of amendments to the contract, but at some point in time, the KPLC legal staff found it was confusing to see a paper with an amendment and another amendment and another amendment. So simply as a matter of form, they took the original contract and they called it amended and restated so that all the amendments would appear in one form within the contract. That is why it's an amended and restated contract, only for the purposes of the reader, so that a reader doesn't have to have an original contract from 1998, an amendment from 2000, an amendment 2001, et cetera, and try to put the pieces together. But the contract, amended and restated, or amendment, whatever the form was, it was always a continuation or on the basis of the original RFP and structure for development of the geothermal resource and the sale of power. I hope that
All right, that I agree with
explains
you
that question.
fully. The question is then, for those amendments, what was the new commencement date?
Excuse me, commencement date? Could you?
In terms of the power purchase agreement,
Yes.
because the power purchase agreement has a certain period. So, and there is a commencement date. So when you amend, for instance, which was now would become the commencement date for the contract?
I would have to go
Or
back.
have to go to with the original, or now that new one becomes the?
I would have to go back, and I don't want to
Maybe
answer out
one
of
of
turn.
your
I'd have to
team
go
has
back.
that
Yes,
answer.
we'd have to go back to. No, we don't have. I have a legal background. My friends don't. We would have to go back and look at it to analyze and answer you accurately. If you like, we can do that. I would have to sit and look at the paper to answer you right now.
Maybe you have read the contracts from our side. Have you looked at those contracts and what they say? So what I'm seeing here, and third amendment agreement, basically one of the clauses and 5.7 entire agreement, you must have this document, it is your document. This third amendment agreement, together with the third A and R PPA and the direct agreement, contains or expressly refers to the entire agreement between the parties with respect to its subject matter, and expressly excludes any warranty, condition, or other undertaking implied at law or by custom, and supersedes all previous agreements and understandings between the parties with respect to its subject matter, and each of the parties acknowledges and confirms that it does not enter into this third amendment agreement in reliance on any representation, warranty, or other undertaking by the other party not fully reflected in terms of that amendment agreement. So basically, that line supersedes all previous agreements, seems to indicate that clearly what I alluded to earlier, that such a clause is very, very dangerous, because when there is no value for money, when there is no room to renegotiate the tariffs, then it gives us no value for money when we operate a power plant, and then after 10 years down the line, we amend by simply adding a few megawatts on board, then throw away the original amendment, the original agreement, to which payments have also been done for the cost of the equipment, or basically for your initial investment. Then that leaves us at a point where we are disadvantaged, because midway the contract has been amended, before, just midway or before, right before its expiry, and the terms have not been renegotiated, so that the renegotiated tariffs can reflect the fact that we have also made an investment towards paying your investment. So basically, that seems to be the challenge we are facing.
So just to relate to this last point,
Yeah.
not forgetting the other points that you would like us to clarify, in the same document that you're quoting from,
Yeah.
if you open the page, the front page, it explains that the whereas says we've entered into the original power purchase agreement on 1998, and then in B, it lists each amendment of the original power purchase agreement, which is to say that all is enveloped in the same agreement. It simply was amended from time to time. That's just to answer the legal point that was being raised as to whether this is new contracts, a series of contracts. This has always been on the basis of the original power purchase agreement and the tariff, and the construction of the tariff, and the form of indexation, and the consideration of what is capacity, what is energy, royalty payment, that came from the original 1998 agreement, and was restated from time to time, just for the reader comfort. So that is just for this point that you're raising, the legal side. My colleague would like to clarify the tariff, so that there's no misunderstanding about the tariff in the room. And then, to the extent that I remember the earlier points, I've jotted down a few, I will try to address those. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, that's okay. It's important to keep some notebook, and you need to be putting them down.
Yes,
You
thank you.
can explain.
Thank you. Now, explanation for the tariff number that
yes.
you've jotted down before.
Yes.
Yes, for the capacity, the amount of 41 is per month.
Okay.
So we have a coefficient of the contracted capacity, which makes it the tariff per kilowatt hour charged to be 0.11.
Just repeat.
The clarification, the number that I had given as 41,
Yes.
it is per month. Capacity is computed on a monthly basis over the 31 days. Whatever has been availed to KPLC as a coefficient, therefore, that costing will lead to a 0.11 cost of capacity per kilowatt hour, not the 41.
0.11.
11. Yes.
All right. So then the other one is just a minute. That is if you're working with 41 or when you're working with 44.
With 44, you get 0.13.
So basically, if you compute the capacity plus energy charge per kilowatt hour in Kenya shillings, that becomes how much?
Yes, in 2024,
Currently?
Yes, currently, the average will be 0.14 cents US dollar per kilowatt hour.
Okay. Are you selling power at 14.3 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour?
Yes, translated into Kenya shillings.
Is it 14 or 18?
14.
14 is a combined or?
Combined all plants as an
I'm
average.
saying that is it the combined for
Combined
capacity
energy and capacity.
combined energy and capacity?
Yes.
Okay, that makes our work easier now. At 14.3. And you know, Socian is selling us power to us at 4.9. So that we can just go to the actual figures. And for your information, it is 18. Because if you compute the figure you've given me, 0.14 times the current rate of the USD at 130 shillings, that becomes 18 shillings. So that is basically 4 times, close to 4 times what we are buying from others who have come the other day.
Yes, I have averaged for 2024, and my computation is 0.14. I would like to see how...
Yeah, it is 0.14.
Yes,
Just,
average.
you can multiply by 130.
Yes.
It will just give you 18. Or you can take the current rate at, you can Google, yeah?
Yeah.
It is slightly higher if you go to 133. So basically it's 18 shillings. It's a simple math.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can make progress because now we know the figures that we are getting from you.
Yes.
The revised one, the correct ones are close to 4 times. So that's it's already an understood point.
Yes, I'll let my colleague comment on the comparison or comparative
There is
number
nothing
from
to comment.
Social.
We are quoting the figures that you are selling power to us at, and what we are buying from Kengen. Kengen is giving us at 5.3. You are giving us at 18. Socian is giving us at 4.9. So I hope the explanation is not the expensive investment.
Okay, so let me try to just run through the points that were raised, if I can. And I'm not going to discuss the numbers. We have people here who know how to crunch numbers. Over the past 10 years, just to keep up the outcome of the plants, $250 million was invested only in the field. The plant equipment is replaced and updated consistently. So it is not a case of a one-time investment and then you sit and you get your equity return. And every time, of course, a new addition is made or a new plant is added, of course, that's a whole new investment. But every year, we have to continuously invest and reinvest in wells, in managing resource, and of course, in updating and optimizing the equipment. And you're more than welcome, by the way, I'll just put in parentheses, to come and visit the plant and see for yourselves the work that we do there for the purposes of the grid. That is my first explanation. That's my response to the question of, is it a one-time investment, and then you just reap the incremental, you reap the return over time through capacity. The capacity is also meant, and energy, to represent the ongoing costs to maintain the 98% reliability factor that we are subject to. The comparison to Kengen is very different. Kengen is a parastatal. It has an agreement with KPLC, which is an agreement between 2 parastatals, where the owner is a common owner. It's the government of Kenya. And the government of Kenya is not a private shareholder. It is a public entity which can decide how it wants to the
Point of
shared
order, Mr. Chair.
profits between the two
Point of order.
parastatals.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Madam, I think ab initio, you avoided the issue of comparison. And for reasons that are known, I think the chair has made it very, very clear. So for you to start pegging your answer with comparison to Kengen will be actually diverting the attention of what we are seeking from you. So kindly put your justification as all carrier. We not necessarily having to go that way. Already we have another company which is offering a lesser rate than even Kengen. You will not be able to justify that.
Right.
Sorry, I was just relating to what I was being asked.
Okay. So maybe the concern of the member is that you see, we as a committee, we have also looked at the pricing structure of Kengen. And the only reason that Kengen would have been excluded from this discussion is if there were subsidies from government to lower the costs. But remember, there is no such subsidies. Kengen, we do not finance Kengen to do any form of drilling. We don't. We don't give them any look at the budget. We don't give them any money from the exchequer to do any form of drilling. It is their own A&A that your organization does the same. To finance your operations, you also look for financing. That does not say why you should be 4 times more expensive. Then if really time is the issue, because every other person who appeared here, especially the IPPs, their claim was, oh, Kengen has been in operation for long, so the equipment is already paid themselves. You have been in the business for long. Then the same argument that your investment, to a large extent, you've recouped your investment. Now, our worry is that there are people who are not government who have come on board the other day, and we have mentioned a number. These people are selling power at 4 times less than giants who have been there for long yourselves. We're trying to understand why you are selling this power at this expensive rate. We are also trying to understand how come, specifically yourselves, your contracts have taken a different shape that looks like there's a lot of interest in the way these contracts have been structured. That this middle way execution of the contracts, you make amendments to the contract, but these contracts only are amended to favor you because you are adding new capacity, but retaining the old structure of feed-in tariff. And when we have had engagements with many other IPPs, they have told us why we charge capacity charge is because we have to pay for the equipment, and we have agreed. And we have even computed for many IPPs that we will even propose to terminate. Because we have seen, we have said yes, they have invested their money. We have also seen how much they invested. We also know how much we have paid them because we have the data from Kenya Power. To the extent that now you can look at the data and say, yes, you came in at this particular date, your equipment is 80%, 90% paid. In matter of fact, after the expiry of the period, and for instance, specifically speaking to maybe thermal generators, for instance, is that equipment does not belong to them anymore. Because why are we paying capacity charge? We are paying capacity charge to pay your initial investment. We have no other business for giving you that money unless it is for paying that initial investment. And if we have fully paid, for instance, how much does it cost to drill a well? If this is a specific amount of money you require to drill a well, if we have established that we have paid you this much for drilling that well, then how does the well belong to you anymore? It belongs to us because we have already paid you. And therefore, the least that you could have done is that all these amended contracts, they should have shown that we have partners who care, that they know they have been in this business for this number of years, and over the time, we have paid for partly their initial investment, and therefore it can only be reflected by a reduction in capacity charge when you are inheriting wells that have been drilled. Because I do not believe that the wells that you started with, they were closed down. They are still in operation. And by the time we are amending the contract, some of those wells were already fully paid for, and that seems to be the problem. And it can only, can only be explanation, the simple explanation that unless there's been a bit of a canvassing of conflict of interest, I do not understand why a contract at this particular point in time should be signed or amended in whatever form to give you a tariff that is never a tariff that is 4 times higher than the equivalent we are getting from other people currently. So this is we just want to put it to you that we are not satisfied with the way these contracts have been amended. They have not given us value for money.
Chair, I just wanted to say that all IPPs are business entities. And what they could be doing to make it more competitive, they are supposed to be competing with Kengen to sell power to Kenya Power at a cheaper rate, more than even Kengen, because they are business entities. Today we could be asking Kengen, how comes IPPs are selling power more cheaper than you? But in this case, it is the other way around. How? So, as it is that it is business, let them become competitive by selling power to Kenya Power at a very cheap rate, and maybe probably cheaper than Kenyan. Thank you.
Chair, I think from where we are sitting now, looking at the tariff that they are charging Kenya Power, we would wish to hear, to get a justification as to why they are charging that rate and why they should remain in business. Otherwise, I think we should start thinking of how this contract can be terminated. This is where Mwananchi is actually making the noise from. If you can satisfy us with a reason as to why your company should still remain in power, Kenya Power, and we get convinced, I think from there we may have a discussion. But at least for now, what we need to hear is that justification.
This is not the most expensive IPP. And it's very uncomfortable to be under attack, to have all these allegations thrown at me, and we don't even get a chance to respond. I want to note that for the record. We are here at the invitation of the government. This amount of money, large amounts of money, then and now, constantly, are being invested for the production of geothermal energy for the benefit of the grid, at the invitation of the government. After all government approvals, nothing was done other than in full accord with the law. We are a public company, we are a US company, we do not monkey around. We come to do our job and we do it well. If we're asked to produce reliable energy, to constantly reinvest, monitor, redrill, close old wells, build new wells, $250 million in the past few years just to keep the geothermal reliable, for the benefit of the government, for the benefit of the Kenyan people, we do not feel comfortable in the way that we're being approached by the committee. So please, if you'd like to have clarifications, if you'd like to have responses, we're more than happy to provide them. But there has to be some element of respect that we're here to listen you out. We understand you believe you're acting for the public good. We are also here for the public good. We're also representing shareholders. Excuse me, let me please finish what I'm saying.
Just finish.
I'm sorry, but there has to be some element of fairness in the room. And I don't feel that sitting here, there's any wish to actually hear what we have to say. So if that's the case, I'm happy to turn the forum over to you. You can say or develop what opinions you like, and we will hear you out. But if we don't have a chance and we don't get to respond and you make your own conclusions without even asking to hear the facts or knowing the numbers or knowing the history or knowing why the tariff is the way it is, how we differ from Socian, that we carry the geothermal risk, Socian does not. Socian doesn't have to run the geothermal resource. It can convert what it receives or not. It is a take or pay agreement. We know it well. Why Kengen is different from us? Kengen is a parastatal. Kengen has received concessional financing for its activities. It has the backing of the government. We do not. We do not have a guarantee for the government for any kind of loans. Over time, Kengen has received those. And if Kengen is, well, highly efficient, that's excellent. I'm very happy for Kengen. But that doesn't mean that we are doing anything other than our job and our side of the table. Thank you.
All right, you had time to respond, but your response doesn't seem to touch to the significant issues. Let me just tell you that there is no reason to be agitated. As long as you're doing business in Kenya, we are going to hold you accountable. With the purpose of this committee, we are the national committee that represents the whole country on matters energy, and it is our business to ensure that Kenyans are protected. Doesn't mean that when you're a big organization, you are not held accountable. In fact, our thinking is that when you're a big organization, you should be affording better rates because you are big. And you don't need to borrow everything because your organization probably has the capacity. So the bigness reflects in the finances. So what we want to know is to establish, and it is not for you alone. This is the route for everyone who is investing here. And for your information, actually going forward, any power purchase agreements will have to go through Parliament. Any amendments, they have to go through Parliament so that we see if there is value for money. So it is nothing personal. Because probably even when some of these contracts have been signed, probably you are not even there. So it is not you as a person. It is a deal that we have gotten from your company that we are saying does not reflect value for money. It is nothing personal. And that value for money is not an allegation. It is a question of reading the figures. It is a question of comparisons. So if we were offering us the same figures with others, then we would not be asking these questions. We are asking you because your figures are different. It doesn't mean that we have a problem with you. It means that we have a problem with the figures you've given us as a company. And we are telling you again that we understand that Kengen is a parastatal. But let me tell you, Safaricom is private, it's not a government, but it's doing good business and in a competitive way also. And we are also saying that there are new people in this business who are also doing what you are doing, who are not parastatals, and they have also managed to give us good deals. Because you see, then how does it help you when then we see, for instance, look at in total you are supplying us with 150 megawatts, right?
Yes.
It cannot be, the only justification is because you are helping us to have power. Do you know that Kengen has 300 megawatts equivalent of steam that is ready for conversion? Meaning that by virtue of converting that, it can render your organization redundant, because basically it's given 2 times. The steam available is actually 2 times what you are giving us. You are not the only one, and we appreciate your efforts because you started at a point when we needed you most, when there was need to bridge the gap. But then I think advantage has been taken of the situation that we started at that level. Going forward, you've established yourselves here. Then we expect you to give us value for money. It is nothing too much to ask. When we say when a contract has been revised midway, and we expect lower figures and they have not been lower, then we must ask questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Chair.
Can I
Just a minute, let her respond, then I come to you.
Can I just mention that after the last meeting we had,
Yeah.
we were asked to meet with KPLC to negotiate an amendment to the PPA, yeah? And we actually made a proposal to KPLC. We only asked that KPLC pay the debt that it owes, so that we can justify to the lenders, we have third-party lenders who are dollars coming from outside the country in order to fund each of these plants and each of the investments. In order for us to even be able to justify discussing a change in tariff, we have to show them that there's a consistent partner on the other side who's going to meet its obligations. Otherwise, there's no way we could receive approval. So we sat with KPLC, we made a proposal, we said, but please pay your debt. As I sit here today, the debt is $60 million from KPLC to OR Power 4. That puts us in a position where of being frozen. Part of the higher kilowatt hour price, which has increased over time, is because KPLC has been dispatching the plant. That makes the kilowatt hour price higher. It makes the per unit price higher. I can explain why, but that means that you are receiving capacity and no energy for the same kilowatt hour, that if you only paid both capacity and energy, you receive the kilowatt hour, and it would overall reduce the tariff. A geothermal plant is meant to be treated as a base load plant, a 24/7 plant, and not as a peaking plant, for example, like a solar plant or a wind, which would be brought on in peaking hours. That is not how geothermal is meant to be handled. But in the past few years, that is not what KPLC has been doing, even to the extent where recently we've been dispatched by closing 100 megawatts. That drives the price up per kilowatt hour. That's why you hear high prices from my colleague. So there are many factors that are coming in out of our control, actually, that contribute to making that number higher. We would be more than happy to see KPLC pay its debt, to have an intelligent discussion with the KPLC PPA staff. We know that they are or we were told, they are the authorized folks to speak to and try to put together a better transaction for both parties, but that has not been enabled. So with really a heavy heart, I don't want to see a high tariff for the Kenyan public. On the contrary, I would like to see the Kenyan public enjoy a lower tariff. I do know we're not the highest IPP price, yet we're still willing to discuss. But we need to have a partner to discuss with, also with the willingness to meet its debt, or I can't get approval from the folks behind, or from the public, the shareholders. It's a public traded company. So please think about that. We're here to work together. We're not against you. We're with you. That's how we see it. We're more than happy to partner with you. But we do need support on the other side, and we need to have that willingness to understand these are major issues that we're facing. The risk of Kenya, happily, has come down, but not the way that people see KPLC. KPLC has been recently very undermined, and it's not been seen as a strong partner for purchase. Witness the high debt. It's been in debt to us for some years. By the end of 2023, it was over $80 million in debt. That's a very high number. We can't sustain it. We have to report it to the public. And unfortunately, it puts a certain light on the transaction. So if you could help us to correct those inequities, I know you oversee the market, maybe you can help to support this so that we can help to support your mission also better. Thank you.
Members to introduce themselves, yes. You can start with the introduction.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. and my name is Mawade, MP Embakasi South constituency, and a member of this committee. I just want to touch on the response that was given in regards to the reason why the all power, we are here only for one reason. Our responsibility is to ensure that we look after the interests of the Kenyan citizens as the National Assembly, the committee in charge of energy. All power is charging 14.3 shillings.
It's actually, we've computed to 18.
18, I misquoted. 18 shillings per kilowatt, while the others are charging us 7 shillings per hour. Why should we continue buying power at at such a high rate, more than double what we are buying from Kengen and what's the name of the other company? And Sassion. The contracts normally tend to run for 20 years. Your contract expired and should have been terminated about maybe 4 years ago. The simple fact that KPLC owes you $60 million does not justify or does not give you justification to continue charging excessive amount than you should. Kengen next door in where you are in Olkario has the capacity and ability to be able to replace you and replace maybe 2 others without any effect. Actually, they lose by not producing. We want you to give us justification. We will ask you for justification. Whether we get agitated or not, we will not fail to ask questions because it's our responsibility. Oversight is one of our responsibility. One of the reasons why we are elected as members of parliament. And we'll ask the questions. The question is, how come Sassion is able to charge about 6 shillings per kilowatt? How come Kengen is able to charge 7 shillings per kilowatt, and yet you continue to charge the Kenyan citizen 18 shillings per kilowatt? The Kenyan citizen is hurting. The Kenyan citizen is suffering. You are a very huge company. So you should be the ones to come and say, okay, we have made our money back in the last 23 years, 22 years in existence. So we can go down to the level of Sassion. Then we can be competing with Kengen. If you quote any other company, before you quote any other company, any other IPP, allow me to share with you that the other IPPs that are higher than you, they're using diesel to produce. There might be one other, I know there's one other maybe that's producing using steam like you, but there is need for you to reduce the power. You cannot put a condition that since KPLC owes us $60 million, then we will not reduce the price. We need the Kenyan Mwananchi to feel that since you've made your money in the last more than 20 years, more than 2 decades, now you can share. You cannot put a condition that since KPLC owes us, we cannot sit down with them. Otherwise, as the chair has indicated, we have amended the law and all the approvals will have to be coming through this committee. And we'll strike all of that. I can assure you if and you need to, we want you, since you started with us when we were in need, please, we would want for you to continue staying and now, but the price has to come down. Madam, that was a direct statement and a question from you. Why are you not able to, and yet you've made your money in the last 20 years?
Chair, the question that has been, Chair,
Chonga, Mulanya, then they can respond.
Yeah, Chair.
All right, okay.
Can I prosecute this?
No, allow them to introduce themselves.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for making that decision. I think the best thing is for us to introduce ourselves first, so that at least they know they are talking to who and who. My name is Honorable Cecilia Asinyen Ngitit Ishu, the County MP for Turkana, and a member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That is very much in order. My name is Simon Ngakingara, MP Ruiru, and a member of this committee.
And I am Barongo Badia, MP Bomachoge, Borabu, a member of the committee.
Any other member was not introduced?
Commander Mwafrika, MP Nairobi County, a member of this committee.
All right, so we go to Chonga, then Mulanya.
Okay, Chair. The issue that has been raised by Honorable Mawathe is exactly what you raised, is exactly what I raised. But instead of Madam coming out with the justification as to why they are charging such tariff, she instead got agitated and went ahead giving us PR. To be very honest, I don't want to rule Madam as a hostile witness on this matter, but that is what she is becoming. Should we not get that justification, which every member here is interested to get, I think we are going to make our own report. We can release her and make our own report. But the demand that we are making is that justification for the high tariff. Everybody is complaining the same. And that is what we want to hear from you, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just echo what my colleagues have said earlier. And the question that arises from my end comes from your statement when you are annoyed. You have told us that you are here courtesy of government invitation. This committee is people's representative. Those are the Kenyans who raised complaints that they are facing high bills. It's not the government that complained. That is your guest or the person who you. And even the member who raised this issue on the floor of the House is our colleague who is not a member of this committee. She's representing other Kenyans from that particular part of this country. So when you tell us that you are here courtesy of government invitation, you are not here to monkey. Those are the words you used. Nobody accused you that you are doing monkey business. I don't know if from your invitation, if there's any word that you use that all power is doing monkey business, because she said that you people, your company is not here to monkey about. So what we want to know, is it that because our report, we have carried out an inquiry on why you people and others charge excessively or charge highly in terms of power production, leading to high power bills. Is it that because you are invited by government, you are entitled to charge the amount you are charging, while others are charging lower rates? Thank you, Chair.
Right, we can have one last person before the response. Okay,
Thank you, Chair. I think we are here basically to work in a formula where power can be affordable in this country. And I just want to pick one item which is maybe a Friday item, whereby you say that you were in agreement maybe somehow to renegotiate with the Kenya Power. You'll be quoting me if I'm not right. Then my question is just simple. Are you still willing to negotiate with the Kenya Power? And if you had that thought, how low would you have gone matters pricing? How low? Which price? Or do you have maybe a price in mind now that we have the 18 sharings? Did you have any other price in mind which maybe you can share with this committee? Thanks, you, Chair.
Okay, there is still more interest, so
Yeah, mine is not really related to whether or not Madam has sufficiently answered the questions on the comparisons of the cost of power from her organization compared to the other players in the market. Honorable Mulanya has tried to bring out the fact that Madam she actually lost her composure somehow, and made some references, even using the word monkey. I feel very uncomfortable considering the historical connotations associated with the word monkey between black people and white people. And I just want her to withdraw that particular word in that context so that my spirit will be at peace.
First of all, I withdraw the word, and my profuse apologies, and truly no harm intended. I only wanted to say that this is a company that works exactly according to the rules and according to all regulations, law in all countries to which we're subject, and my true apology, certainly not. Apologies. I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me to tell you each element of cost for creating a power plant and maintaining a power plant. But I can speak generally to what the elements are of what goes into building and maintaining a power plant. First of all, it's engineering, to plan, and to plan according to a specific resource in a geothermal world. Of course, to investigate the field, to maintain the resource and the field, to drill wells of different types, make-up wells, injection wells, production wells, some of which continue over time, or some of which fail over time and have to be closed up, and then reinvestment is required. Of course, plant technology is to create the power generating equipment. This is a particular technology which is a closed cycle technology, these plants, which means that the exhumed geothermal steam is re-injected into the earth in order to create an environmentally safe and clean plant. It doesn't exhume the re-injected steam back into the air. The plants have to be financed, so the financiers over time have been elements like, government, private groups such as KfW, DFC, Proparco, and many others. Each of those plants was financed over time or refinanced, and the financing, of course, carries a high cost, as well as the interest does, and of course we need to reimburse the debt. Because of the size of reinvestments we've had to make in the past few years, no monies were paid to shareholders, no dividends or profits were made in the plant. And yes, it's an expensive plant to run and to maintain the resource at the 98% efficiency level. Having said that, yes, I reiterate that we opened the conversation. We came to KPLC. We said we're willing to discuss with you. Part of the discussion has to be what happens with all this curtailment, because the curtailment, in other words, the constant shutting down and opening up of a geothermal power plant, is antithetical to the nature of a geothermal power plant and causes additional costs for the plant, which is what we've been suffering lately. We wanted to talk to KPLC about that. We wanted to talk to them about closing their debt, and we wanted to discuss changes to tariff, but that discussion led nowhere. We had one meeting, and then KPLC never called on us again. So we don't know where that stands. It's not in our control, but to answer your question, yes, we're willing to talk with KPLC. I don't have a number to give you right now. It depends on what happens, if KPLC can pay its debt, if KPLC can revise its policy of curtailment, which is causing us damage, and we're more than happy to enter into that discussion with whoever the authorized negotiating team would be at, I believe it's KPLC. And we've always stated our willingness to do that, and I reiterate. I don't have a number to throw to you right now, but I do hope and I do pray that we can come to a good solution for everybody at the table. I really can't, I don't know the finances of every other company or every other entity. I do know the major difference between ourselves and a plant that is buying steam from GDCs such as Socian, so it only has the element of the energy conversion to handle, and it doesn't handle the resource issue or the steam or the wells issue. So that would definitely cut tariff. But our obligation is to maintain that resource, and by the way, in a manner that ensures that when the resource will revert to the Kenyan people, that it will also continue to be able to produce. That is our concern. We as a company with a good conscience don't want to damage the resource and see it deplete. We want it to be maintained so that when our PPA term is over in 2034, then the resource reverts and it can continue to produce for the value of the Kenyan people. The plant won't be ours. The geothermal concession will revert. But if we don't handle the resource right, it won't be able to continue to produce. And Kenya, thank God, is blessed with geothermal as a resource, which is a wonderful, wonderful resource to harness for the good of the people. I hope I've managed to answer at least some of the points that were raised, Mr. Chairman, or any of the members. If there's something else that you want me to relate to of the many thoughts that you've thrown out, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Yes.
That was most of that. Now, you had the company had suggested that you had said that your condition was that the debt be paid before you negotiate. That condition precedent to allow you to negotiate the PPA, you have to be paid your debt. Are you ready to relax that condition?
I would have to go back to the shareholders, but basically, it would be very hard to convince third-party lenders who have an investment, who are invested in the company's plants here, to accept changes for benefit of KPLC if KPLC doesn't prove that it sustains its obligations. And we've carried that debt for years now. It's not a new issue. It's an issue that we've reminded KPLC for several years, and it grows and grows. Each time, if you check our letters to you, I think the first time we might have spoken, it was 25 million, now it's 60 million. I don't know how to justify that to the folks whose approvals would be required for amendment. So at the very least, we need to have a program where we know that the money is going to be repaid. I'm not saying repay it, today is June 7th, repay it June 9th, but we do need to have some program, some understanding of that obligation to repay, if I've answered your question, I hope.
Let me ask you, this year, in April, KPLC paid you $12.4 million. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. The debt was over $83 million at the end of 2023.
Okay. We are in which month? We are in June.
When did they pay?
So basically 2 months ago, you were paid $12.4 4 million by
Yes, sir.
dollars by Kenya Power.
Yes, sir.
And you are still not sure they are going to pay. Because you see, when you peg the renegotiation to the issue of payment of the debt, which just 2 months ago, they already paid $12.4 million, there should be goodwill to renegotiate because they are actually showing goodwill in paying.
We're very appreciative of their having reduced the debt. Is there any program for the further reduction of the debt that can be explained to us?
Please.
I'm sorry, I say we're very grateful for reduction of the debt. Is there any program that someone can explain to us for the further reduction and erasure of the debt?
So how did the payment come about without a plan?
What's that?
How did this 12.4
Well, in
come
part,
about?
we were the first, I think we might have been the first IPP, the first entity to come forward and say we accept some payment in shillings. And so payment was made in shillings at the time when KPLC said it had trouble to obtain US dollars. Although our debt is in US dollars, our costs for all of the equipment and all of the revisions and engineering are in US dollars. So we aren't in a position to accept a Kenyan shilling contract, but we accepted money in shillings, and that helped KPLC. We can to pay some, but we can't do that for the whole of the debt. So my question is there any program, or perhaps this team doesn't know?
Before they paid the 12.4,
yes.
You had discussions, or did you agree on a particular program, or how did they get to pay the $12 million
I believe that
in the first
KPLC,
place?
I'm not familiar with all of the KPLC practices, but is it the case that they paid a number of IPPs a certain amount? I don't believe that we were the only ones that they paid a certain amount of the debt down. Is that correct? That was my understanding.
So all right, the man who deals with the finances. So if somebody owes you some debt, you just wait and to see in the account you have seen some $12.4 million come without any discussions, without any particular program, without one day you went to the account and found some $12.4 million.
No, Madam Chairman. We had discussions with KPLC, and we all understood the country's economic situation at that time, especially with the unavailability of the US dollar. And we agreed to be paid in Kenya shillings to meet our tax obligations. I can assure you the whole 12.4 million.
Of the response, you have, for the past 10 years, revenue in total. We've given you the total revenue, unpaid amounts from KPLC, revenue collected, expenses, tax cash expense, investments, debt payments. And you see what the relationship at the bottom is of cash flow to revenue. So I think that's an even larger picture, even more complete picture than what you've asked for in your original request. So I hope that satisfies. And in attachment D, this is to our letter response, which we gave to you yesterday and hard copy today. You have a list from the year 2000 through 2024. Energy capacity in US dollars and in Kenyan shillings, and on the side, the royalty payment sizes to the Ministry of Energy. I that response to your query. I'm sorry, and one more. The last request in E was for the invoices that KPLC have unpaid. That is the attachment E. I'm afraid in the hard copy it comes out very small, but in the soft copy, it's in the computer, you can make it larger. That lists the outstanding amounts, invoices, and time periods. Those were the last questions that we were asked to respond
Earlier
to.
submissions, you had indicated that the outstanding amount from KPLC was $40 million US. In your own documents, was it? How did it jump to 86? I thought 12 would have reduced it to 28.
No, last year, at the end of 2023, it climbed to $83 million. 2023, by December 2023, it climbed to 83 million.
So we
Because
are
of the
talking
payment,
within a gap of how many? Yes, the same month, huh? We are in 2024, right? The
yes,
document I'm talking about is during your last appearance, is it?
which date, please?
Yeah, this, okay, these are the regulatory findings, and so we have been able to collect substantially. All right, so now, which month of last year did it jump to 86?
The amounts that were outstanding were from April 2023 to December 2023. They paid several amounts within that period of time, and January up to May, January up to April this year, the debt was substantially reduced, and currently it stands at currently it stands at 60, because they have paid up to the month of February 2024.
Now it's important to work on your figures. So at one point it was 40, I don't know how it jumped to 86. Then now from 86, now we have paid 12. If you were to subtract 12 from 86, to give you 70 something, but apparently it is 60. So why can't you have the figures clear so that we understand whether KPLC in the first place has been meeting its obligations? Because without clarity on that, we cannot be able to understand whether they have been paid or not.
The 12 million is particularly highlighted because it was received in Kenya shillings in April, but they had paid in January, February, and March.
They had paid also.
They had also paid January, February, and March. So the previous years invoices.
All right. So, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to take our power back to somewhere page 26A of a certain document here that say Electronic Power Act number 10 of 2019, approval of the first supplementary agreement to the power purchase agreement dated November 15, 1998. Why I'm taking you back there, this purchase agreement was signed in 19th July 2000, meaning you have been negotiating with Kenya Power from 1998 and then signed the agreement in 2000. My question therefore is, I think a concession is normally you get a concession before you enter into a purchase agreement, correct?
To my recollection, the concession was provided after the signature of the original power purchase agreement. I believe it might have been from 1999 or 2000. I would have to go back to check the date. It wasn't provided prior, but the RFP came out and said, please come to, this is the PPA, and this is the indexation, and this is the energy and capacity structure, please propose a price. And then, or Matt at the time, the parent, together with, I think, others in the market proposed the price. Ormat's price was the best price. Then they entered into the negotiation for the PPA, signed the PPA, and after that, the geothermal concession was provided.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why I'm asking so is because I'm preview to Agil, a concession that has a concession along Longonot route that have not even started. And I believe you get a concession first before you sign an agreement, because what are you signing for if you don't have where you want to work with? I believe where I sit is that when you get a concession, therefore you enter into an agreement because you already have a field and you know what you intend to do with that field. And because if you look at this, the back of this, these are your documents, not my documents. It says a concession, the agreement was signed in November 1998. I think after several years, probably up and down in offices, you signed after 2 years the purchase agreement, meaning you got a concession earlier than that. Nevertheless, my final question would go to Nyaga. And this is not a question pertaining what we are seated here for. It's a personal question. I think you know me very well. I've been trying to get you. And I have two questions for you. There is a petition being written by some people around your area on CSR. And my question would be, why are you forgetting two villages? The village in Goidianito, you don't give them employment, you don't give them tenders, you have actually marginalized Goidianito, and the other village is Seneto. And the two villages, the DCs have written to you, and the chairmans, you have never acknowledged that there are chairmans in those villages. And my question is, what is it? Why marginalize a few villages within your area? And I believe Ngoriendo and Senator are within your preview. Thank you, Chair.
Maybe that can be answered in the context of the Energy Act 2019. 2019. Yeah. 2019, that is mandatory to have local content. You have 1 minute.
Thank you, through the chair, and thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I want to say we have several CSR projects in Olkaria that border on education, which is like our core support area. We also have others on feeding programs in school. And regarding your question on the communities, we have mapped the communities around the project area in majorly two categories. We have the communities that border the project area directly. And then we also have the communities that border these communities that border the project. So your reference to the communities you mentioned are not bordering the power project directly. But nevertheless, we have included them in employment opportunities, and we've also have included them in CSR projects, particularly in Goidianito. Last year, we did a renovation of a dormitory school, and we continue to engage them, even in opportunities of employment. But we don't consider them, we don't consider the committees as such. The leaders get to us on a need-to-need basis.
Chair, preview, Nyaga, you know where I come from. I think you know how many kilometers I live from your plant. And I'm not asking this question with malice. I'm just asking a forthright question that you're marginalizing some communities, which is not good. I think, Chair, there's a petition. I think with due respect, I don't think we need to have petitions in here or in petition committee because of a company not doing its due diligence. To me, I think you would have just done it at your own level instead of coming to Parliament and calling you because I believe you're very busy. I believe there are some people who have been appointed or elected to represent those villages, but to me, you have actually forthright shut your doors from them, which I think it's not necessary. Because if you say Nguriento is outside your preview, you know, Narasha, that small school is me who has built it with one class from you, and it's just next to you, it's a neighbor to you. And I believe if we do more to our communities, we don't need to, actually you will be having a face as a company. Instead of us coming to you every now and then. And so, I believe Nyaga knows what, without evading, you know what I'm speaking about. You know what happened last week, or the week before last week, where some people you promised them to be employed. Within no time, they were not employed. They were replaced by other people. And I think it is not necessary because I've also tried to reach you severally. You don't pick calls. And it's really not worthy for me to come and ask you in a sitting like this. I think you need just to up your game next to those communities because nobody's bigger than any other community. The communities that you're saying they are next to you, all of them are Masais. Just the Narasha, Ngambani, or all those communities, they are just next to you.
All right, we need to conclude now. So maybe if there are a few villages that have a problem, and the rest do not have, it is obvious there is a problem that is felt by the few who are having a petition. So it could be possible that you are doing something, but it is obviously that they are aggrieved to the extent they have a petition. So I suggest those are issues that can be looked at. So we will look at these additional submissions you brought to us, and if we find anything that needs further clarification, that clarification, then we will seek it for completeness of our report. So members, this meeting is adjourned.